Honest J. Nowak. Coming at you live. Alright. A pleasure to meet y'all at last, and welcome back to Honest J. Nowak Graphix. Today, let's go ahead and talk about something from the Tomb Raider series. We're going to go ahead and speak of Shadow of the Tomb Raider, which of course was made by Square Enix, released in 2018. As you know, Square Enix is now the official owner of the Tomb Raider franchise, in the same way that Square Enix has also been the official owner of the Just Cause series, the Kingdom Hearts series, and the Final Fantasy series. We also cannot forget Outriders, but maybe that's probably a subject for another day. Until then, let's just go ahead and focus on what was the most recent Tomb Raider title ever released on the PS4. Shadow of the Tomb Raider. The same old stories of Lara Croft, going out venturing through other parts of the world to find certain treasures, discover different archaeological records, and possibly anything else. But the biggest part about it is the ensuing adventure that would then take place. And we also cannot forget puzzle solving, stealth, and full-on combat against mercenaries of all sorts. This game really does give you quite a lot to look forward to. And I have actually had the chance to play all three of the Tomb Raider games over time, including Shadow, and then Rise, and then, not too long ago this year, I also played Tomb Raider 2013, Definitive Edition, as a remastering for the PS4. And one of the first releases for the PS4, to be said. So I particularly do say that the Tomb Raider series by far has been a pretty impressive ride. The whole entire continuity that we've been living in, upon this whole entire new generation that we've had, and we also can't forget that while Generation 8 may be something that could be history over time, we'll always remember that even though Generation 9 has come around, almost behaved like a fad so far, with having pretty bad releases of both the Xbox Scarlet and PlayStation 5. It will be important for us to all know that this really does in fact have plenty to offer. The PS4 is what I've considered to be the greatest console in history, with the greatest game library, and there are at least 3 reasons to that. Number 1, each game has a lot of representation of what the best technology could possibly be. The second thing about it is the fact that lots of game designers, developers, and publishers have learned from their mistakes by this point. And as a result, they get to use their games to their own benefit, and for the rest of us, not a nice way to put money in their pockets, but still, we get what we paid for, no matter what. The third and final thing, of course, would be the fact that the PS4 does technically have a chance to reboot almost every possible franchise. And I'm not joking when they've made so many licensed franchises on this console that it's ridiculous. And I've seen pretty much everything by this point. Transformers, Tomb Raider, and I mean, it's just incredible. So many licensed franchises are out there on the PS4. And we'll probably see a lot more with the PS5 in the coming 3 years, pretty much. If it gets better over time, then I might forgive Sony for this, but I sure won't have to forgive them for the PS4 because they've already done everything right. But anyways, to avoid getting off track, let's just go ahead and say that for the third title released on the PS4, the third official installment that we've gotten, Shadow of the Tomb Raider is in fact about Lara Croft going out venturing into the jungle only to discover a certain ancient city that is of course under attack by a group of mercenaries known as Trinity, almost akin to Shoreline from Uncharted when it comes to militia groupings that are hostile against the main protagonist. But in this case, I'd say that in comparison to Uncharted, because of the M ratings that these games have, it could be a little worse. So, a little worse looking and sounding. Mostly for language, mostly for blood and gore and violence of all sorts of things. Lots of stuff here is graphic. Very graphic. Starting at the very point where Lara Croft ends up going all the way down from a broken down plane pretty much, and having to scour the lands for all sorts of things. Croft will also have to go swimming in certain spots, but be careful not to drown, of course. Thankfully, they do give you some guidelines on how to find air pockets in certain parts of the game that require long periods of swimming to take place. Also, we can't forget about the boss battles. Beginning with the first one, of course, that takes place with a giant tiger. A tiger covered in blood, and trying to eat Laura only to be warded off, pretty much. I tell you, when I mean this game is violent, I seriously mean that this game is pretty violent. The gunfights, bow fights, and plenty of other unique properties about this game are just certainly all out at this point. But it's 2018. What did you expect? Here we are 3 years later talking a bit more in depth about it and in greater detail. So at this point, I'm just more than just biased about it. But what I will also point out about this game is just the incredible ending that takes place. The leader of the Trinity group happens to become a sun god. A sun god that could fire at you. I don't even know what could possibly be said about this. What kind of context could I possibly come up with that could ever comprehend something this incredible in my whole life? Like, a freaking mortal becomes a god just like that. And this is, of course, fiction, not real life. We're not mortals. And there are no gods. So, that's just the end of that. Christians sicken me, and all other realists throughout the world. But in the end, I will say that Shadow of the Tomb Raider, for a 2018 title, really does whatever it can possibly do here. You got customizable options of all sorts, including different costumes. We also cannot forget about the original Tomb Raider series, which at the time was done by companies like the dreaded Core Design. They messed up so bad in 2003 with Angel of Darkness that they went defunct in so short of a time. It's probably the fastest defunct process I've ever possibly heard in my life. Worse than Chuck E. Cheese's. Worse than Toys R Us. Worse than Payless Shoe Source. Worse than 100 other things I could possibly describe. So, that's just where it pretty much ends for me. But at least I can consider this to be a nice redemption arc in the Tomb Raider franchise entirely. There's really not all sorts of things out there that could possibly make these things better than they originally were, but I mean, what'd you expect? Tomb Raider, a game in 2018, has gotten so much. I mean, it's endured quite a lot of horrible things over the years, so it's about time we give it a break. Maybe we'll see more in the future. With Tomb Raider itself, there will probably be a new continuity taking place. Under Square Enix's ownership, we'll probably be seeing their specialized quality of games when it comes to developing and publishing. But at this point in time, it's safe to say that the series is a bit dormant right now. We'll probably see it in the future. I don't really know when, but we probably will see it again soon. But until then, I'd say Shadow of the Tomb Raider is just impressive, by all means. Not necessarily a great masterpiece, but still is that good of a Tomb Raider game entirely. Way better than most of the others I've seen so far. And for that, if you want to see more go down on my channel, then make sure that you like, subscribe, comment, follow me on social media, and stay on the Hollywood side.